you either shut up and accept and change and grow, or you shut up and keep your opinion to yourself. But what we have is some boys that have decided to just let it go.
I could get away with it. And then everyone forgot that Riot is just as bad as these other game developers because they waved a shiny product like Arcane in your faces and you all forgot. Here's another, I guess, topic that is related to legality. So we recently heard that Riot Games has reached a $100 million agreement for a sexual harassment case. Obviously, this is litigation that goes back to 2018. Now, this did appear in the news cycle back then, and obviously since then it's been fairly quiet, that alleges gender discrimination and a toxic work culture. And obviously there are a lot of individual components and stories about this at the time that it came out. Now, here's what I think I understand. Initially, I think it was like a $10 million settlement, and then there was an appeal. I think the DECA appealed it and went back through all of this, and now we know that the publisher pays $80 million to current former and contract employees who worked at the company from November 2014 to the present. I assume this scales on how long they were there for as well.
Yeah.
And $20 million will go towards legal fees and stuff like that. So, you know, at a time where obviously we've been laser focused on Activision Blizzard because of their horrendous optics, this whole thing, Scott, has been bubbling away.
Yeah. The state of California is all over both these companies for a variety of things. A lot of it having to do with the same issues: discrimination, gender. Activision Blizzard's also in California's, eyes and the government's eyes for antitrust stuff, for their league stuff, unrelated to their personal, employee issues at a company. They got some company issues over there. But again, they've both been in the news the last couple of years. And you're right, this was going to be a $10 million lawsuit. State of California got more involved and said, wait a minute. That ain't enough.
And they were like, it could be entitled to much more.
They said it could even go up to $400 million, and now they've settled at $100 million.
It's the Department of Fair Employment and Housing, which is a government department, right? There are litigation groups that are not government entities like the DFEH. Oh, wait, no, that is them. The EEOC, Equal Opportunity and Employment Commission or something like that. I think they might not necessarily be a government party. But, I mean, what's important here is that in 2019, they tried to move this to arbitration. Right, saying that employees had signed agreeing to arbitration, right? And this is what a lot of these companies do is try and move these disputes out of the public eye. And people are saying this is a big problem, and they went to sort of move force an end to this what is forced arbitration essentially, because obviously it protects the identity of the culprits, it protects the image of integrity of the company. It essentially gags the people that are involved. And I think in this day and age, it's not a palatable concept. What I find interesting about this is that Blizzard obviously is also dealing with these people. I think, and in court, initially it ended up being an $18 million settlement. I'm talking about Blizzard just because this is related. Yep. Now, this was also appealed by the California Department of Fair Employment and Housing. They said $18 million isn't enough. The judge blocked it. So while Riot Games here is paying out $100 million, Blizzard might get away with just $18 million in their case, which, comparably, it's fuck all. Yes. Especially given that I'm quite sure the payouts would have been on the same scale to just as many people over just as large a period of time. So I don't really know how precedents are being set for these kind of cases here, but obviously, it's interesting to see this story come back up. Obviously, as it went viral at the time, and then dead, and then everyone forgot that Riot is just as fucking bad as these other game developers because they waved a fucking shiny product like Arcane in your faces, and you all forgot, and you all spent your time going after Bobby Kotick because he's a fucking moron. And what Activision Blizzard are doing in the meantime, just consuming Riot Games content. You guys have short fucking memories. Dead short. These guys are doing the same thing. All these motherfuckers need to be kept accountable. And in fairness, Blizzard shouldn't get away with an $18 million payout. Now that this precedent's been set, hopefully there's a way to circle back around, because I know Activision have in their investor reports, I'm pretty sure, I've got the numbers here. So you can obviously find out what like the status of revenue for a company is based on their sort of investor reports. Blizzard has $10 billion cash on hand for whatever reason, according to these reports. So they could just fucking pay.
Yeah.
They could just pay.
18 million is like,
you know what I
hang
mean?
on, just a
yeah.
second.
Also, there's a reason why companies might move to be more cash heavy based on certain economic situations here. But I mean, there's no reason why Blizzard can't just fucking, at least pay this amount. But again, of course they don't want to. Of course they don't want to. It's a limitation of liability they're looking for.
Yeah. And again, so I've never worked for a game dev, but what is it that seems to be a little systemic, right?
I mean, listen, you know what I think? Well, this is purely my opinion. I just want to make it very clear that I haven't really worked for a game developer inside their offices, so I really can't speak to the lived experiences of people that have suffered this horrendous treatment at the hands of these people. I want to make that really clear. So you have to understand my perspective. Extremely flawed as a result of that. An observation, if you will, a cursory one. It seems like these guys, like game developers of like the late 90s, 2000s, kind of rock stars, you know what I mean? Like, oh, fuck, we're doing games for a living, We don't have to be these like buttoned up suits at Wall Street, or we don't have to be subject to all these, these conduct requirements. We're rock stars, man. We got long hair. We got fucking plaid t-shirts. We're making games, baby. We'll just get fucking Metallica to come play at our at fucking BlizzCon, you know what I mean? We've escaped the white collar prison that everyone else slaves away in with the oversight of all their bosses and middle management. It seems like so many of these guys, are just didn't play by the rules, didn't care, thought they were fucking, invulnerable, and thought this heyday of being a game developer where you didn't really have to live up to any behavioral expectations or standards would exist. Very quickly, as the workforce diversified and as oversight committees started to develop, we saw that this was no longer the case. And, yeah, these people are still being turfed out as we speak. Was that fucking Jeff Fraser? Greg? Some bloke from Blizzard was recently seen to be selling off all of his stuff.
Yeah, we were going to maybe talk about that as news, but then we kind of threw it to the side because of Riot. But no, let's talk about it because it is the Blizzard news of the week.
I mean, but basically, I think her name is Jess Gonzalez, right? One of the leaders for like the A Better ABK movement was like, oh, I don't work here. Fuck it. This guy was part of a Discord group called the Right Wing of Gaming, where he would just fucking abuse colleagues and co-workers and stuff like that. These people are still sheltering in these companies, mate. They're still there. I guarantee you. Hopefully, at the very least, they become too afraid to fucking show who they really are after all this. And even if they're rotten inside, as long as they're too fucking scared to actually allow that to dictate their behavior, I guess I'll have to settle for that, because we can't overturn every stone here, can we?
No, and it's kind of, we're going to talk later in the show about a little esports, gender, fucking discrimination type drama, if you will. Not necessarily discrimination, but obviously the women's leagues, all this kind of crap. And I wonder if it's the same kind of archaic leftover thought process, right? You build an echo chamber that's just you and your mates for a while so you can get away with this shit.
It was jobs for the boys for the longest time.
Right? And then, just like a game developer, the diversification starts. You either shut up and accept and change and grow, or you shut up and keep your opinion to yourself. But what we have is some boys that have decided to just fucking let it go.
They get away with it,
right?
Yeah.
And now they're fucking around and finding out, right? But again, we'll talk about esports in a little while.
We have a run of show to abide by.
I'm sorry.
Jason went to all the work of making these fucking coloured squares, so there was an order of things to discuss.
No, I just think they're parallel because, again, they're very much both echo chambers that were allowed to exist for a very long time before they started getting diversified.
Yep.
And now the diversification is saying, knock that fucking shit off, you assholes. You can't act that way anymore. And they're like, what do you mean I can't act that way? Anyway, all right. I don't know if there's much more to talk about this. It would be interesting to see if this retroly affects Blizzard in a more negative way, like to your point of like, if they get dinged differently.
Court precedent is important, but from what I understand, the judge in Blizzard's case already rejected the appeal by the DFEH. So
could there be an appeal of the appeal and using this to say, hey, look, you just did this?
This is where it's like, maybe I should have spent some time getting educated about how the real fucking world works. I mean, my brother's a lawyer. I could fucking ask him. But,
there you go. All right. That does it for that little section. Remember, we have Q&A that we do at the end of every show. There's your reminder. I'm going to start throwing my cards every time.